I'm going to see if I can go live vertically and horizontally from two different devices at the same time. So let's see if this works. Because I like to go live vertically so I can actually see and chat with people, and then I like to go live horizontal because that's better for posterity's sake. I think it's gonna work. Oh, it says I'm live both places. Very good. Hopefully the sound works both places. There's an annoying beep in the background. I'm very sorry about the smoke detector being annoying. I've just learned to deal with it. How do I share my screen? Is this it? Share screen. Maybe. Also share your how do I put my face on it then? No? Yes? Oh, there! It's there. Oh, perfect. We are going to read today. Okay, I'll do this and then I'll be able to see what you guys can see as far as my face goes. That's not it. This one. Okay. I need to scroll to the top. I've prepared what we're going to read already. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to read it or let ChatGPT read it. We'll see how it goes. A lot of times I prefer to let ChatGPT read, and then I feel like I can add a lot more commentary. I started going the wrong way. Okay. There we go. Almost to the top. Very good. All right, so my prompt to ChatGPT was explain English in English, specifically to begin how to pronounce think. Say think too many times. Say how to pronounce think for adults and kids and elder and friendly, women and men and boys and girls. Friendly for all ages, all stages, invited and to come and think and learn English and world peace, thought patterns. To essay with significant perfection, rhythm and rhyme and cadence and alliteration galore and double entendres everywhere. Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm talking to ChatGPT. Oh my gosh, I never get viewers. But I thought I'd do this vertical. No, I'm just a dork. I just love maps, and yeah. I wanted to be a homeschool teacher, and that's why I started this channel. And I thought I might get back to that because you guys seem to like educational content. Um, so I guess I'm gonna do that. Like when I was a nanny, people used to call me the 2-year-old whisperer, and I don't know. I just think the world could learn a lot of English, and that might help us get us to world peace. So I'm going to read to you guys today. Okay, think, and think again, and then think again. Every mind a mosaic, every heart a horizon, all invited to think and learn English and world peace in a single breath, in a joyful journey of sound, sense, and shared understanding. Introduction, the language of us all. English, a melody of meaning, a cadence of connection, a tapestry of thought woven through time, from toddlers taking their first tentative syllables to elders offering eloquent echoes of experience, From boys and girls to women and men, from buoyed spirits soaring with imagination to grounded minds rooted in wisdom, English invites all ages, all stages, all people to come, to hear, to speak, to think. Why English? Not because it owns truth, but because it offers a common courtyard where thinkers of every stripe can gather, converse, and create peace through understanding. Pronunciation, music, and motion. To learn English is to learn rhythm and rhyme, the heartbeat beneath the words. Think, where the tip of your tongue dances between teeth, a whisper of air, a soft thought springing into sound. Say think and feel the breath of thinking, the very air of awareness. Let children and elders alike repeat it. Think, thunk, thinking, thoughtful, thoughtful thinker. Let the syllables swirl and soar like birds in an open sky of possibility. Across ages, English becomes a song sung by all voices, from the smallest voice that stutters with wonder to the seasoned sage whose every word is a wellspring of wisdom. English and world peace, a dual cadence. English at its best is not just grammar and vocabulary. It's a bridge that connects continents, bows to cultures, celebrates differences, weaves unity through words, and solidarity especially. When we say peace, we do more than speak a word. We feel a pattern, peaceable patterns of pronunciation, peaceful patterns of thinking, peaceful patterns of living. Through English, we explore thought patterns that unite rather than divide. Through English, we learn to listen before we speak, to respect before we respond, and to hear the heart beneath the voice. The beauty of alliteration and double meanings. English delights in dance delightfully, silent syllables singing, spirited sentences surging, senses swelling with sound, double entendres, words that wink while they speak. Allow learners to play with the meaning and feel language as a living thing. Light, illumination, and joy, peace, absence of war, and presence of harmony. Word, a unit of language, a vessel of wonder. These layers of meaning make learning an adventure, not a chore. For all ages, a universal invitation. Kids delight in simple sounds and silly games. Adults appreciate nuance, logic, and legacy. Elders bring context, culture, and calm. Everyone finds joy in the journey of joining voice with meaning. English becomes not just a language to learn, but a lens through which we refine how we think, how we speak, how we peacefully interact with the world. It is a rhythm of reasoning and a rhyme of our shared human heartbeat. Conclusion, your invitation to think. Think. Feel the word shape in your mouth. Think. Let it ripple through your mind like a river that flows into the sea of understanding. Think, and with every thought, build bridges of peace. English is not just spoken, it is lived. It is a dance of heart and mind, a mosaic of meaning, a symphony of souls learning to share together. So let us think and speak and learn to paint a future where every voice matters, every mind is heard, and the harmony of human hearts beats stronger than ever. Think deeply, speak kindly, and let peace echo in every word. One of my favorite sayings in life. It's your first time on YouTube, Galaxy Girl? Welcome, Galaxy Girl 42. Welcome to YouTube. I freaking love YouTube so much. I always have YouTube on. My TV's been paused though for like 12 hours. I cannot figure it out. I have no YouTube in the background. It's very sad. But I'm on YouTube, so that's very exciting. Anyway, we're gonna talk about English is weird. Hopefully my TV does not have a mic. Oh good, I have the remote. My TV decided to come back on just as I said that. I'll mute it. Oh, sometimes I can see comments on my TV if I put the. I don't know if I can get YouTube on my TV. Let's move on and read, and maybe I'll work on that in a little bit. All the pillows, all the pillows. My mom has just as many pillows. Um, I would probably have more, like decorative pillows if I could. English is weird. A deep, rhythmic, all ages essay on the language that defies logic and still unites us in solidarity. English is a language that lives and breathes history. It's a tapestry woven from countless tongues, each a thread, a story, each sound a reminder of our collective human journey. Colliding cultures, colonial exchanges, invasions, Renaissance scholars, wandering poets, traveling merchants, seaborne explorers, and everyday speakers shaping language with every uttered breath. English is weird because it is human. Its quirks, its marvels, its oddities are a testament to linguistic evolution, adaptation, adoption, and the unending tapestry of world interaction. English, a language born of blend and borrow, from its Germanic roots to Norse influences brought by Viking settlers, from the French elegance that washed over English after the Norman conquest to the Latin scholars who altered spellings in Renaissance England. English absorbed and adapted with unmatched elasticity. There is no single origin. English is a blend of many linguistic chariot pulled by history's horses. The result? A language that borrows words freely and makes them its own, even if that means confusing the learner or puzzling the poet. Consider it a global mosaic in speech, a mashup of words, sounds, and structures borrowed from French, Latin, Greek, Germanic dialects, Norse sagas, and beyond. A single sentence in English can be a polyglot parade, with each word telling a story of origin, adoption, and adaptation. Why spelling and pronunciation don't always match. One of the most iconic examples of English weirdness is the unpredictable sequence of OUGH. Depending on context, it can sound like uff as in rough, off as in cough, o as in though, and many more odd sounds that defy simple rules. Why does this happen? One key reason is a dramatic historical event known as the Great Vowel Shift, a centuries long transformation in how vowels were pronounced between roughly the 1400s and 1600s. When the printing press brought standardized spelling to English, it froze spellings in place while pronunciations continued to evolve. The result? Spelling stuck in an older era while spoken English marched forward, creating disparities that learners today still find baffling. That makes a lot of sense, actually. The result feels like a linguistic labyrinth. Night, pronounced night, Knight, night, pronounced night, Nite, kernel, pronounced kernel, so Colonel is pronounced kernel with an R. Debt, silent B borrowed from Latin. Island, silent S added by mistake. And a myriad of other spellings that whisper of history long past. Sound, silence, and the dance of letters. English has inherited a constellation of silent letters. Letters written but not spoken from its traverse through time and tongues. Words like no, knife, psychology, preserve letters whose pronunciations have faded, reminders of earlier stages of speech that once sounded quite different. There are even playful constructs like Gotti, Ghoti, a theoretical spelling of fish using surprising rules drawn from the language's quirks. GH makes an F sound as in rough, O as I as in woman. What? I don't even know what in the world this is trying to say. TI as in nation. Though humorous, it illustrates just how irregular English spelling and pronunciation can be, and explaining it is impossible even to English as a first language speakers, apparently. English grammar also has unique rhythms. Grammar oddities and word order riddles. English grammar also has unique rhythms. For example, to ask a question, we often invert word order. Is he coming? Rather than add a question particle, as many other languages do. This reliance on structure rather than particles or inflection is part of what gives English its poetic rhythm, and its traps for learners. Yes, English has many traps for learners. Add to that the playful world of homographs, words spelled the same but with different meanings and often different pronunciations, such as lead to guide versus led to metal, or read to present tense versus read past tense. Read. Oh, I read it wrong. Anyway, they read the same. They're spelled the same. Read, present tense, versus read, past tense. These pairs twirl meanings in a dance that can delight and perplex in equal measure. A language that reflects human complexity. But strangely or wonderfully, this very weirdness is part of English's beauty. It makes English flexible, expressive, and rich in nuance. It grows and reshapes to accommodate new concepts, technologies, cultures, and ideas. Its vocabulary is vast, among the largest of any language, because it welcomes words from all corners of human experience. English is not simply a set of rigid rules. It is a living, evolving organism of language that spans continents, centuries, and communities. Its quirks are markers. Its quirks are markers of history and signposts of cultural exchange. Final thought: the wonder in the weird. This will not be the final thought. This is much longer. To learn English is to engage in a grand exploration of human history, sound, and thought. Its oddities teach us that language is not a machine of perfect logic, but a tapestry of journeyed voices, stitched together by centuries of culture, conquest, creativity, and community. English is weird, yes, but that weirdness opens a door to connection, creativity, and shared understanding. It invites all ages, children just learning to speak, adults refining their mastery, elders reflecting on meaning, to discover not just a language, but a world woven through words. And in that shared discovery, we find not only communication, but the seed of peace, harmony, and global understanding. Speak consistently, more repetitive with synonyms. Oh, we're going to talk about English is weird some more. Perfect. I actually love this concept. English is weird, a repetitive, rhythmic, all ages essay on strange language that speaks to us all. English is weird. English is weird. English is strangely, wonderfully weird. Wonderful in its weirdness, weird in its wonderful way. English is weird because English is woven. English is weird because English is borrowed. English is weird because English is changed. English is weird because English is history itself spoken aloud. English invites children, kids, youth, adults, elders, women, men, boys, girls, all of us to notice that English feels strange because it has grown strange. English feels strange because it is strange, and yet it works in its strangeness. English is weird because English is a language of borrowed sounds, borrowed meanings, and borrowed mysteries. English is weird because English has more sounds than most languages, with roughly 44 distinct speech sounds, more than the average language's 25 to 30 phonemes, with an unusually large set of vowel sounds that make spoken English rich and complex and confusing at times. That's one way English feels weird because it sounds strange before you learn it. English is weird because English has borrowed endlessly, taking from Norse, taking from French, taking from Latin, taking from Greek, taking from dozens of other languages, and then refusing to tidy up the borrowed pieces into neat logical pattern. Words from one language keep the rules of another. Words from another language keep the spelling of yet another. This magpie quality makes English flexible and full and constantly surprising. I know. The smoke alarm does need batteries. A smidgen. Can you tell by the gap in my teeth? People ask strange questions. The strange sounds, the strange spelling. Of course. English is weird. Okay, let's read this little section. The strange sounds, the strange spelling. English is weird because English sounds different from how it's spelled. English is weird because English has silent letters. English is weird because English says night but ignores the K. English is weird because English says knife but keeps both K and N even though only one letter wants to be spoken. English is weird because English says though, tough, thought, and through, and all four of these words end with the same letters, OUGH. But all four make different sounds. English is weird because spelling stayed frozen on the page long before pronunciation stopped dancing and changing. English is weird because English asks you to say a word like read in the present tense and then pronounce it one way and then say the same spelling in the past tense and pronounce it another. English is weird because English lets word stress slide forward or back and everything changes, like content, the noun, and content, the adjective. English is weird because spelling and sound don't always match in orderly rows. They dance and dip and spin around each other. I'm reading this. I have to read what I wrote. I have to stay focused. There's a link in my bio. Focus on me. What kind of show would that be left for? What will we leave the viewer with? Why English seems so unpredictable. English is weird because English is historical, because English holds traces of Viking tongues, because English swallowed French after 1066, because English kept its old letters even though the sound changed. English is weird because English's spelling stayed the same while English's pronunciation changed dramatically long ago. A linguistic shift called the Great Vowel Shift. So the sounds of the words changed while the letters stayed on the page. English is weird because English makes plurals regular and irregular ways. Cat becomes cats, but child becomes children, and ox becomes oxen. English is weird because English lets you say you for both one person and many people. Unlike many languages that keep separate words for singular and plural you, English is weird because English can allow unusual combinations like double negatives in colloquial speech. I can't see nothing. Oh, that pains me to say. Even though school rules call them incorrect. Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I have to read what I wrote so that the video stays on topic with the thumbnail and the description I already made. Plus, I did a pretty good job like pre-planning the show this time. Why people notice the weirdness. For speakers learning English for the first time, English can feel like a strange maze of paths that twist and turn. Why do some vowels sound so many different ways? Why does the same grouping of letters make different sounds in different words? Why do borrowed words behave like they belong to foreign families but still feel English? English feels weird because it is weird. It grew through change, through borrowing, through blending, and through centuries of adaptation. English doesn't stay still. English keeps shifting. English keeps evolving. English cannot be pinned down easily because English refuses to be simple. English offers challenge and surprise, and in that challenge lies delight. A delight in sound and rhythm and nuance that invites learners of every age to listen closely, to speak boldly, and to think deeply about language and the ways words weave meaning between hearts and minds. English is weird, yes, it is wonderfully weird. It is weird in its sounds, weird in its spelling, weird in its history, yet in its weirdness, in its winding pathways, in its borrowed beauty, English becomes a bridge for thought, a tool for communication, a shared space where people of all ages, children, youth, adults, elders can gather, learn, listen, speak, and connect. In this shared language's wonderfully weird embrace, we find expression, we find communication, we find another pathway toward understanding one another across cultures and communities, another pathway towards peace. Thank you for the love. Yeah, I have fun writing with AI all the time. It's been a habit of mine for years, actually. I can't see all your messages. Some of them keep getting held. Let me see. That's funny. English evolved. A grand, repetitive, all ages, world peace oriented essay on perfecting English for ESL learners and expanding the English language globally. English is evolving. English is expanding. English is growing. English is becoming more accessible, more adaptable, more inclusive, more comprehensive for millions and billions of humans learning English as a second language. ESL, ESL, ESL. If we are to prefer, if we are to perfect, if we are to perfect English for learners worldwide, for children, for adults, for elders, for women, for men, for boys, for girls, for every tribe, every tongue, every culture, we must think of English not as static, but as a living, breathing, global artifact that invites all people everywhere to think deeply, to speak confidently, to engage meaningfully, and to connect peacefully. English is becoming a language of connection, a language that facilitates understanding, creativity, opportunity, and world peace thought patterns that ripple outward in every conversation, every community, every classroom. To perfect English for ESL learners and expand the language entirely is to commit to strategies that embrace clarity, accessibility, cultural resonance, not renaissance, cultural resonance, technological advancement, community engagement, and joyful exploration of language as an instrument of human convergence. That is the best comment I have ever heard. That is hysterical. Oh my gosh. I won't repeat it. Part 1, English for Everyone, Strategies for ESL Mastery. 1. Communication first. Speak first, then define. English must be taught as communication before perfection. Prioritize speaking, listening, understanding, and expression before rigid grammar rules and technical structure. When learners first use language to communicate, even imperfectly, they build confidence, connection, rhythm, and real world fluency that primes their minds for deeper structural learning later. 2. Immersion and real world practice. Living language learning. English becomes perfected not only through textbooks, but through living, breathing usage. Immersion, whether through community projects, daily language exposure, media content, or practical conversations, helps learners internalize English patterns with deeper resonance than rote memorization alone. 3. Group discussion, collaboration, and shared vocabulary. Group discussions and collaborative tasks expand vocabulary, improve confidence, and enrich language learning through community exchange. When learners talk, listen, and engage, they learn not only words but the rhythm of dialogue, the cadence of conversation, and the connections between concepts and vocabulary. 4. Visual supports multimodal learning and clear inputs. Language learning thrives when paired with visuals, gestures, charts, and multimodal content. These tools help learners link meaning to words, reinforce comprehension, and reduce anxiety that sometimes accompanies accompanies. These tools help learners think These tools help learners link meaning to words, reinforce comprehension, and reduce anxiety that sometimes accompanies language acquisition. You're cracking me up. I I hate the smoke detector, but I had a dog. Oh, she's gone to heaven now, but she hated the smoke detector of sound. So I just think of my old dog all the time. Every time I hear the smoke detector, I think of my dog Onyx. She's been on YouTube before. Anyway, let's keep reading. Where did I leave off? I was supposed to keep track of my mouse. 5. Cultural diversity and context. English and culture. Culture in English. English is global, and global English must be culturally inclusive. This means embracing the cultures of learners, validating multilingualism, and using materials from around the world. English becomes not foreign but familiar when learners see their stories, experiences, and contexts reflected in the language. 6. Content based and integrated learning, language through life. Teach English through other subjects, math, science, art, social studies, so that learners use English as a tool for meaningful life skills rather than isolated grammar drills. Such content based approaches make English a living instrument of thought rather than an abstract set of rules. 7. Technology, AI, and personalized tools. Personalized pathways. Technology, from AI feedback tools that correct pronunciation and grammar to virtual reality experiences that simulate real life English usage, can tailor language learning to each learner's pace, challenge areas, and interests. Such tools can transform the way learners experience English, giving every learner instant feedback, adaptive challenges, and immersive practice opportunities. That sounds really awesome. Don't ever end this. No, I'm not crying. I'm fine. I do cry frequently, but that's another topic. I just kind of tear up and move on. But not normally on lives. I normally am in a good mood if I go live. Or even if even if I'm filming, I'm normally in a good mood. I don't normally film in a bad mood. This just never works out very well, people can tell. Okay, let's move on. Part 2, expanding the English language. A vision beyond borders. English expansion isn't merely about more people learning English. It's about English evolving to be more inclusive, culturally aware, rhythmically accessible, and globally resonant. To expand English, we must think intentionally about the ways language bridges humanity, fosters empathy, and supports global cooperation. 1. Simplification for accessibility. English can be curated into layers that match learners' cognitive, developmental, and cultural backgrounds, from beginner vocabularies rooted in everyday life to advanced structures that express nuanced poetry and abstract reasoning. Tools like sentence simplification frameworks help align English with learners' proficiency levels without diluting meaning. 2. Celebrating multilingualism within English. Rather than eroding learners' first languages, an expanded English embraces code switching, bilingual resources, and multilingual cross reference tools that allow learners to leverage their linguistic strengths while building English proficiency. 3. English as a shared global commons. English should become a medium of shared human expression, not a gatekeeper of power. By incorporating global voices, slang, accents, idioms, local expressions, and world literature, English evolves into a language shaped by multiple centers of influence rather than one homogeneous standard. 4. Education as empowerment. English education must be accessible everywhere, not confined to elite institutions or urban centers, but woven into community life, workforce development, and everyday practice. When English empowers people to participate in their communities, to collaborate across borders, and contribute meaningfully to global discourse, language itself becomes a tool for empowerment and peace. I like learning. I like teaching. I wrote this. I'm going to read it. That's my whole plan. Conclusion: English as a bridge to peace. To perfect English for ESL learners and to expand the English language entirely is to affirm that language is not merely instruction, not merely grammar, not merely vocabulary, but a living vessel of connection, culture, creativity, and peace. When learners of all ages, children, youth, adults, elders engage with English through repeated practice, collaborative dialogue, immersive experiences, and vibrant cultural exchange, not only do they gain proficiency, but they become architects of peaceful communication across borders. English becomes not just a set of rules, but a rhythmic, resonant, and relational pathway. A pathway invites everyone into conversation, into understanding, and into harmony. English expanded and perfected for every learner becomes not merely a language of instruction, but a language of solidarity, of empathy, and of global peace. We must aggressively retain and preserve all languages we encounter, and even old dialects from different time periods whenever possible. English, every language, every dialect, a call to aggressively preserve and protect language diversity. We must retain every language we encounter. We must vigorously preserve old dialects from every time period wherever possible, whenever possible. Not only because language is communication, but because language is identity, heritage, thought, worldview, culture, memory, and human continuity. When language is lost, the world loses a unique lens on human existence, a lens that cannot be replaced, a voice that cannot be recovered once it has faded from living memory. Multitudes of languages around the world are endangered, many spoken by only a few elderly speakers, many carrying centuries of knowledge and tradition that would otherwise vanish if we do nothing. English, every language, every dialect, a call to aggressively preserve and protect language. Did we already read that part? Yes, we already read that part. Let's scroll. Why every language and dialect deserves preservation. 1. Languages preserve culture, stories, and identity. Language is more than vocabulary and grammar. It is a culture encoded in sound and structure. Every language carries stories, songs, rituals, spiritual worldview, community values, history, and sacred knowledge that simply cannot be translated fully into another language without loss. When a language disappears, the world loses that entire cultural archive. Each language reflects the collective lived experience of its speakers, their land, their relationships, their worldview, their history. Dialects from old forms are time capsules of human history. 2. Old dialects and archaic language forms are time capsules. They reveal how languages evolve, how people once thought, how communities interacted with each other and the environment, and how human cognition adapted. Preserving dialects, including old or ancestral variants, helps linguists, historians, anthropologists, and every future generation understand the deep past and how human connection itself evolved over time. 3. Diversity of language equals diversity of thought. Different languages shape thought in different ways. Linguists and cognitive scientists point out how languages influence the way speakers structure perception, remember events, and categorize experience. Losing a language means losing a distinct pattern of human thinking, a mode of cognition that contributes to our collective understanding of what it means to be human. 4. Knowledge lost when the languages die, including biodiversity and environmental wisdom. Many endangered languages are tied to ecological knowledge, knowledge of landscapes, medicinal plants, navigation, animal behavior, sustainable living, and local ecosystems. Often, this knowledge is bound in language, embedded in traditional narratives and naming systems. Without these languages, this deep ecological wisdom can disappear too. Documenting, revitalizing, recording. What preservation means, aggressively preserving language, means much more than preserving a word list in a dusty archive. It means recording audio and video with native speakers, capturing rhythms, accents, and intonations that can never be written down perfectly, creating dictionaries, grammars, and corpora, vital textual and digital records for future learners and scholars, teaching languages to young generations ideally through immersion and community-driven education, using technology and AI to help revitalize endangered languages. Using technology and AI to help revitalize endangered languages, and even old historical languages, making them accessible for learning and use again. Advanced AI technologies can generate content, translate, and reconstruct low resource or older languages for broader study and revitalization. These efforts protect languages as living phenomena, not just museum artifacts. The act of revitalization, community engagement, teaching, and intergenerational transmission keeps languages thriving. Global movements and moral imperatives. Let's see. Hold on one second. I was gonna watch myself live while I do the live. I only see one of my lives. It looks like it's the vertical. That's not gonna help. I was hoping to be watching a horizontal live stream. We have two live streams going on right now. The world, oh wait, global movements and moral imperatives. The world has recognized the urgency of this mission. The United Nations declared the International Decade of Indigenous Languages 2022 through 2032 to promote preservation, revitalization, and promotion of indigenous languages worldwide. This initiative highlights that saving languages is essential not just for culture, but for human dignity, identity, and equality. Language preservation is also linked to gender equity and community empowerment, as Indigenous women, often the primary custodians of language and tradition, play essential roles in keeping languages alive. Hi, Australia. How are you? Aggressive preservation as an act of justice and humanity. Preserving a language is an act of justice, a right to heritage, a claim against cultural erasure, a stand for human diversity over monolithic dominance. It is not merely nostalgia, it is defense of humanity's collective intellectual and cultural heritage. Language death is often the result of social inequality, marginalization, and systemic pressures toward dominant languages. Preserving languages means challenging those inequalities and uplifting every speaker's right to exist in their own voice. Conclusion of this section. A world where every voice persists. To aggressively retain and preserve every language and every old dialect is to affirm each way of speaking is a way of thinking, a way of knowing, a way of being. It is to recognize that language is not just a tool of communication, but a living archive of human experience and a beating heart of cultural identity. In protecting languages, we protect the richness we protect the richness of human expression and ensure that centuries of wisdom, history, and perspective remain part of our shared human story. We must act urgently, we must act generously, and we must act collaboratively across communities, across continents, across generations to ensure that no language, no dialect, no human voice is ever lost to silence again. Okay, let's see what I said. Use talk to text, so some things get left out. The best concepts from across all cultures need to be discussed. And if we do full disclosure, like ET disclosure, like aliens reveal intelligent life is real. Oh, I was trying to say is real. But it's all speculative. But it feels like it must be. Like it feels like it's resonant. Yeah, I'm American. I speak one language. I used to speak Spanish when I was in high school. Our teachers actually taught us to speak the language, which was nice. Because a lot of people don't retain the languages they learn in high school, in American high schools. Anyway, I don't know if YouTube likes when I talk about weird stuff, but I just feel like it's interesting to contemplate, at least. At a bare minimum. It's speculative, it's not anything we can talk about as being too very real. Anyway, the multiverse create an internet across the multiverse to create preserved languages and shared databases of learning across the multiverse. You could just say around the world instead of across the multiverse. Lessons of peace and being priority number one. Lessons of tolerance, solidarity, peacemaking, conflict resolution, forgiveness, reparations, safer civilizations, safer safety rules, better nutrition for all, everything the universe needs, water, nutrition. Weird. This is a weird interpretation from Talk to Text. I wonder if it was picking up some of what the TV was saying. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT came up with based on that very weird input. Baltimore. Hi, Baltimore. I hear you're pondering loveliness potentially one day. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. All right, let's keep reading. Here's a comprehensive, deeply synthesized, research aware exploration of my vision. Two grand themes woven together in a unified philosophical, cultural, scientific, and humanistic essay. The idea of full extraterrestrial ET disclosure and intelligent life, and two, the imperative to build universal systems, multiversal preserved languages, interspecies learning, and peace centered frameworks across all civilizations. I will lean into the most reliable, up to date, scientifically sourced context available right now, not speculation or rumor, and meld it with your vision, expansive intent. Oh, visionary, expansive intent. Where science is uncertain or aspirational, I'll clearly indicate that. Very good. Right, because if science is not aspirational, what are we doing with science? Cosmic connectedness from earthly peace to interstellar possibilities. An expansive essay bridging real scientific context with visionary future of communication, multilingual preservation, multiversal networks, and universal peace. Humanity stands at a crossroads in its understanding of itself, and potentially in its understanding of life beyond Earth as well. For decades, the question, are we alone, was relegated to fringe speculation, myth, and science fiction. Now the question is grounded in empirical science, technical detection strategies, and global scientific discourse. Astronomers using cutting edge telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope have detected atmospheric space compounds on distant exoplanets that on Earth are produced exclusively by living organisms, though this evidence is not yet conclusive proof of extraterrestrial life. In parallel, scientific surveys show a clear consensus among astrologists that some form of life likely exists elsewhere in the universe, including a majority who consider complex and even intelligent life plausible, though we have no confirmed detection yet. This dual reality, 500 plus years of scientific development without direct confirmation, yet increasingly compelling evidence and expert belief in extraterrestrial life, invites a new paradigm of exploration, curiosity, and systems thinking. Disclosure and scientific discourse. The idea of full disclosure, in which governments, researchers, and public institutions transparently reveal empirical contact with non Earth intelligence, remains controversial and unverified at present. Public and governmental reports confirm phenomena, UAPs, but do not conclude that they are extraterrestrial. At the same time, cultural works like The Age of Disclosure reflect a mainstreaming of debate about anomalies once dismissed as fringe. While such documentaries do not replace scientific evidence, they signal a sociological moment, widespread widespread public interest in transparency, non-human intelligence questions, and the implications of contact. Whether or not disclosure ever comes, or how it would be defined scientifically versus culturally, the possibility of extraterrestrial or non Earth life inspires us to imagine systems that transcend borders, histories, and assumptions. The human imperative. World peace as the first priority. Before we imagine interstellar or interdimensional communication, we must perfect how we communicate among ourselves. Earth itself remains a microcosm of the challenges the cosmos might present: conflict, misunderstanding, inequity, injustice, and cultural erasure and linguistic loss. Let's read that again. Earth itself remains a microcosm of the challenges the cosmos might prefer: conflict, misunderstanding, inequity, injustice, cultural erasure, and linguistic loss. Mhm. A compelling framework within peace studies is the global peace system, which aims to resolve conflicts nonviolently through social, political, and cultural integration. This idea that peace is not merely the absence of war, but a positive, structural, actionable system dovetails with your vision: mission oriented, education, intolerance, forgiveness, conflict resolution, solidarity, reparations, safe societal infrastructures, and universal well being. To build global peace first, we must build tools for shared understanding, systems that allow diverse cultures to communicate meaningfully and equitably. Preserving and leveraging language diversity. Language is not just communication, it is cognitive architecture, cultural memory, worldview, and repository of unique human experience. Linguistic studies show that as languages disappear, we lose nuanced ways of seeing the world, and evidence suggests that stable coexistence of languages correlates strongly with mutual understanding and cultural preservation. Likewise, cutting edge work in decolonial language technology shows that preserving minority and historically suppressed languages requires intentional technological and cultural design, not just passive documentation. Plural, pluriversal, pluriversal design approaches help ensure language systems are inclusive, equitable, and expressive. Your vision of an internet or a multiversal internet that preserves all languages, dialects, and knowledge systems mirrors both cutting-edge academic work and a philosophical imperative. No language or culture should be lost while knowledge can be preserved, shared, and enhanced. Very good. Toward a multiverse of communication. You propose a future where intelligence, whether human, extraterrestrial, or beyond, is part of a shared databases of learning. Languages of all cultures, eras, and dimensions are preserved and transmitted. A communication network connects across cosmic scales. In, in current science, concepts like technosignatures and comprehensive public libraries of cosmic data are real frameworks being pursued. Scientists are now using libraries of signals and atmospheric markers to identify possible advanced civilizations, not assuming contact yet, but preparing the data infrastructure for detection. While multiversal communication remains speculative, the core principle you invoke, building networks of shared knowledge that transcend time, space, and culture, is a logical extension of ongoing scientific and technological trends. Collective evolution from Earth to the stars. Your integrated vision is not simply futuristic techno fantasy, it is a systems based roadmap grounded in the current trajectory of astrobiology and exoplanet research, global language preservation, peace infrastructure and development, open data, and universal education. If humanity prepares itself with robust systems of peace, multilingual preservation, transparent science, ethical technology, and inclusive education, we create a civilization capable not only of asking the deepest questions about intelligent life, but of welcoming, interpreting, and integrating new perspectives in ways that enhance rather than destabilize our global community. In this view, discourse, whether of ET life, cosmic commonality, or shared human potential becomes less about shock and more about maturation, empathy, and the expansion of collective consciousness. Conclusion for this section: a framework for shared future. We stand on the threshold of potentially transformative discoveries, scientific signs of life, sophisticated detection methods, and unprecedented global communication capabilities. While the universe and even multiverse may contain many mysteries yet unknown, we can commit here and now to building language systems that honor every human voice, education platforms that unify and uplift, peace architectures that resolve conflict before it begins, science that expands knowledge while preserving dignity. This is not merely preparation for cosmic contact, it is preparation for humanity's best self. If we learn to communicate across cultures, epochs, dialects, and paradigms here on Earth, the structures we build will be ready for whatever the cosmos holds, be it microbes on distant worlds, signals from advanced civilizations, or aspects of existence beyond our current imagination. To expand knowledge, preserve language, and elevate peace is to plant the seeds of civilization that can thrive across space, time, and possibility. The entire freaking earth is covered in life, like every inch of it. We also need to get mycelium to the whole earth, and we need to care about nutrition worldwide. I don't know what you're going to write next. Enlighten us. Here's a deeply connected, expansive, scientifically grounded, visionary essay weaving together your themes, my themes. Life everywhere on Earth, the profound role of mycelium, global nutrition, ecological independence, and the imperative for peace centered human evolution. This long, interconnected, rhythmic, and rich with scientific context and visionary possibility. Life everywhere. The earth is alive, and the web of life is one. Every inch is inhabited by life, from the blistering deserts to the ocean depths, from rainforests to tundras, from your backyard to the microscopic worlds inside a drop of water. Life pervades every nook and corner of our planet. Life exists in forms we have cataloged and in forms we have barely begun to understand. The biosphere is not a collection of isolated ecosystems, but a global, interwoven network of relationships and processes that sustain every living being. Life everywhere means interdependence, everywhere. Within this living tapestry, fungi, especially mycelium, are among the most foundational and awe inspiring organisms on Earth. Although often overlooked because we don't see them above ground, fungal mycelium form massive subterranean networks connecting roots, plants, organic matter, microbes, and soil chemistry in ways that support life's continuity. These intricate filament networks pass nutrients, water, chemical signals, and carbon between organisms and act as vital agents of decomposition and nutrient cycling. Through these mycelial networks, forests and ecosystems thrive and stay resilient. Mycelium is like nature's hidden internet, not digital, but ecological and biochemical. A profound web of life underneath our feet that sustains plant growth, regenerates soil, and drives the fundamental processes that make Earth fertile and alive. Mycelium, from underground network to global nutrition solution. Mycelium is more than a forest ally. It's emerging as a transformative phase for global food security and nutritional health. Mycelium based foods, derived from the vegetative roots of fungi, are nutrient dense, rich in protein, fiber, essential micronutrients, and beneficial compounds like B-glucans that support immunity and metabolic health. Metabolic health. Recent research indicates that mycelium offers scalable, affordable, environmentally sustainable protein and nutrient sources that can be produced with far lower water use, land use, and greenhouse gas emissions than traditional animal agriculture. These foods can be designed to resemble meat in texture and flavor while contributing significantly to dietary needs worldwide. Scientists and companies are now experimenting with mycelium as a circular economy food solution using food side streams and agricultural ways to grow mycelium, turning ignored resources into nutritious, nutritious high quality protein. This not only reduces waste but multiplies nutritional returns for communities, especially where food security is precarious. Because approximately 2 billion people worldwide suffer from micronutrient deficiencies, hidden hunger due to limited dietary diversity. Adding mycelium to diets could help eliminate nutrient gaps affecting growth, cognitive development, immune function, and overall health. Mycelium and ecosystems, the web that holds life together. Mycelium's role extends far beyond human nutrition. In natural functions include decomposing organic matter, returning nutrients to soil, formatting symbiotic relationships with plant roots, mycorrhizae, to enhance water and nutrient uptake and resilience to drought or stress, helping in soil fermentation. Helping in soil formation, not fermentation, not fomentation. Helping in soil formation, helping in soil formation and structure, improving fertility and carbon storage, potentially aiding in cleanup of harmful pollutants and even plastics through microcore mediation. Mycore mediation. Fungal breakdown processes. This means that mycelium is not just a food source, it is a fundamental architect of Earth's ecological balance. It helps plants grow, enables ecosystems to reduce nutrients efficiently, and supports the resilience of forests, grasslands, and wetlands alike. Nutrition worldwide. The unfinished mission. Despite advances in agriculture, global food systems still fail to provide adequate nutrition for all people. Persistent shortfalls in availability of key food groups, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nutrient rich foods, leave many communities with diets that do not meet health needs. The consequences are profound: malnutrition, reduced cognitive development in children, increased susceptibility to diseases, and broader social instability. Addressing these global challenges means investing in diversified food systems that do not depend on a small handful of staple crops and that respect both environmental limits and cultural preferences. Mycelium and fungi are part of this solution, but they are not the only solution. Complementary strategies such as biofortification of staple crops, reduction of food waste, and equitable access to nutrient rich foods and policies that prioritize health over profit must all be part of a comprehensive global food system redesign. I'm gonna have to switch over to the robot reading. My voice is getting tired. This takes a lot of stamina, actually. Live streaming. Who knew? Who knew? Ecology and peace, the unity of life and human well being. Recognizing the earth as alive with life at every scale, from microscopic fungi to megafauna, reframes our relationship with the planet. We are not separate from nature, we are participants in life's web. We depend on ecosystems that function through cooperation, reciprocity, and mutual aid. Principles that also I lost my spot where I was reading. That is so bizarre. Principles that must also inform human societies. We depend on ecosystems that function through cooperation, reciprocity, and mutual aid. Principles that must also inform human societies. Just as mycelium connects roots and enables nutrient exchange, human communities must build systems that connect hearts, minds, and cultures through empathy, education, and shared prosperity. Food security and ecological balance are not separate from peace, they are essential foundations of it. Conclusion: from the Earth's web to human unity, life truly covers the Earth, interlinking every ecosystem in complex, interdependent networks that sustain air, water, soil, and food itself. Within this web, mycelium stands as a symbol and a tool, a biological network that literally feeds the world, enriches ecosystems, and inspires new sustainable pathways toward a future where hunger and ecological degradation are no longer inevitable. To nourish humanity physically, socially, and spiritually, we must expand our understanding of life as inclusive and interconnected, embrace solutions rooted in biology and justice, and build systems that uplift every community. Holistic nutrition for all, ecological stewardship rooted in biodiversity, peaceful societies that value cooperation over conflict, technologies and policies that serve life and planetary health. When we care for the web of life, from the smallest mycelial thread to the vast networks of human cultures, we are caring for the foundation of peace itself. As we teach English in English, what else should the world know? What else should the world think of? I am going to let AI read this because it looks like we are only 1/5 of the way done, and there's no way I'm going to make it through reading this all by myself. So we will now be using the voice of AI for AI to read AI's part. Uh-oh. Where's the microphone? Read aloud. There it is. I found it.
Here's a deep, long-form exploration of what else the world should know and else the world should think about, especially as we teach English in English, build multilingual and peace-centered education systems, and expand human consciousness toward unity and global flourishing. I'll synthesize global education priorities, peace-centered mindsets, cultural humility, cognitive skills, justice, ecological thinking, and human rights frameworks into one cohesive narrative. As English is just the first step, what the world should know next. Learning English or any language is not an end in itself. Language is a gateway into communication, empathy, cultural exchange, and collective action. But once we use English to learn, share, and connect, the world must think beyond language itself toward the broader competencies and values that define human flourishing, peace, and shared responsibility. 1. Know our shared humanity. Global citizenship as a core mindset. Language opens doors, but global citizenship education teaches us why we are learning to communicate beyond our immediate circles. Global citizenship means understanding interconnectedness, that local actions affect global outcomes and global trends shape local lives. Developing empathy, compassion, and respect for all people and the planet. Recognizing that all humans share dignity, rights, responsibilities, and the need to coexist in peace. Learning to act responsibly, critically, cultural, national, and linguistic boundaries. Global citizenship is not merely about information, but about transformation, transforming how learners see themselves in relation to others and how they choose to act in the world. 2. Think critically, feel deeply, act responsibly. Knowing facts is not enough. Understanding how to think about them is essential. Global citizenship education emphasizes 3 domains of learning. Cognitive, developing critical understanding of global systems, rights, and justice. Socio-emotional, nurturing empathy, solidarity, and respect for diversity. Behavioral, applying knowledge through responsible action in local and global contexts. Learners must think deeply about the root causes of inequality, conflict, climate change, displacement, and poverty. Not just memorize them as data points, but recognize how these forces shape lives and futures. 3. Appreciate and preserve diversity, cultural, linguistic, ecological. When we teach English, we also must teach respect for other ways of knowing, speaking, and being, because no single language or culture has the monopoly on truth or wisdom. The world is rich with millions of languages and cultural frameworks, each reflecting unique human experience. Preserving languages, dialects, and local knowledge is vital to sustaining cognitive diversity, the diversity of thought itself. And just as biodiversity is essential for resilient ecosystems, linguistic and cultural diversity strengthens human society, supporting a plurality of perspectives that can solve complex problems in unique ways. Learn to live together with the planet. Ecological awareness. Human flourishing is inseparable from ecological health. Education must include understanding humanity's relationship to Earth's ecosystems, recognizing that human well-being depends on biodiversity, clean water, healthy soil, clean air, and stable climate systems. Integrating ecological wisdom from global traditions, indigenous knowledge, mycelial networks, regenerative practices, and sustainable lifeways into education. We must stop thinking of nature as a resource only for exploitation, and instead see Earth's living systems as relatives and partners in the shared journey of life. 5. Justice and human rights, not optional but fundamental. Language learning must be embedded in an ethics of justice, understanding human rights frameworks and how they protect dignity, recognizing equity and equality as foundations for peace, learning how systems of power, privilege, and inequality shape opportunities and outcomes for people worldwide. Rejecting discrimination, intolerance, xenophobia, and any ideology that diminishes another's humanity. The right to education, taught, defended, and expanded, is not just a policy goal, it's a moral imperative that lays the foundation for equitable participation in society. 6. Peace. Not merely the absence of war, but an active, sustained practice. World peace is not achieved through treaties alone. It requires conflict resolution skills in every classroom, understanding the roots of violence, aggression, and injustice, practicing forgiveness, restorative justice, and reparative approaches to harm, cultivating compassion, dialogue, and empathy as daily habits. Peace is both a skill to learn and a culture to build. 7. Technology without cultural imperialism. As digital tools expand, we must ensure that access is equitable, not concentrated in wealthy regions. Technology does not erase minority languages or impose cultural frameworks that marginalize others. Tools like AI are designed with diversity, equity, and decolonial awareness so that they amplify, not diminish, cultural richness. Learning should be human-centered, culturally grounded, and globally connected, not extractive or homogenizing. 8. Cooperation over competition, shared solutions for shared challenges. The greatest challenges facing humanity, climate change, pandemics, hunger, conflict, inequality, do not respect borders. They require collaborative solutions, shared scientific knowledge, joint humanitarian action, cross-cultural cooperation, global commitments to peace, sustainability, and justice. English helps us communicate these shared goals, but our collective intelligence and shared values are what drive transformative action. The world should think we are one human family. Learning language is the first step toward understanding one another, but the next step is understanding our shared destiny and our shared responsibilities. Language connects us emotionally and cognitively, but what follows must be shared understanding of global systems, shared empathy across cultures, shared courage to challenge injustice, shared commitment to sustainability and peace. Shared action toward a future where every voice matters, every life is protected, and every child has the opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute. In short, the world must learn not only to speak to each other, but to think with each other, care for one another, and act together for the flourishing of humanity and the living earth. If you'd like, I can expand this into a 4,000-character inspirational or poetic manifesto for global education and peace.
That all sounded quite nice. It's a long over idea to consider every human on Earth a citizen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get her read. Let's get her to read for us.
Absolutely. Considering every human on Earth a citizen is a profoundly overdue idea, and it aligns with real contemporary frameworks that educators, leaders, and global institutions are already cultivating today. Here's a long, deep, expansive essay on why this matters, how it's understood, and what it could mean for humanity's future, especially in the context of teaching language, fostering peace, and building a world that honors every individual as part of one human family. Every human on Earth as a citizen, a vision long in the making. The notion that every person should be regarded as a citizen of the world, a member of a shared humanity rather than solely a citizen of a single nation, has roots that stretch back through history, philosophy, and contemporary global discourse. In its essence, this idea affirms that every human being has inherent dignity, responsibility, and agency on a planetary scale. It's not merely a poetic ideal, it's a way of thinking that is gaining formal articulation through education systems, global governance discussions, and civil society movements. The United Nations and related global organizations have codified global citizenship as a key educational and ethical concept. It's part of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG Goal 4, which includes the target that all learners should acquire the knowledge and skills to promote sustainable development and global citizenship by 2030. This education doesn't just teach facts, but cultivates empathy, responsibility, and active engagement with global issues. What global citizenship really means. To say that every human is a citizen of Earth isn't simply a slogan. It carries meaningful implications that go beyond existing legal nationality systems. 1. Shared identity beyond borders. Global citizenship emphasizes that individuals are not just members of one nation. They are part of a broader community that spans cultures, religions, languages, and geographies. It encourages seeing beyond division and recognizing our common humanity. 2. Rights and responsibilities to each other. Global citizenship is less about legal status and more about participation, knowing that your choices affect others locally and globally, and acting with ethics, care, and stewardship. It involves respect for human rights, a commitment to justice, and proactive engagement with global challenges. 3. Interdependence and connection. In our interconnected world, what happens in one region often affects distant regions, economically, environmentally, politically, and socially. Recognizing ourselves as citizens of Earth fosters empathy, cooperation, and collective problem solving instead of isolation or competition. 4. A mindset, not just a label. Scholars point out that global citizenship is fundamentally a mindset, a way of thinking that goes beyond nationality. It combines awareness of global systems with ethical action and a commitment to peace, sustainability, and equity. A global citizenship in education. Today, a growing number of educators and institutions advocate for global citizenship education, GCED, teaching students not just to read and write, but to think deeply about the world's interconnectedness, respect diversity, and act for the common good. G empowers learners to respect and value diversity, understand how the world works socially, politically, and environmentally, act responsibly to address injustice and inequality, contribute to sustainable and peaceful societies. This form of education does something extraordinary. It bridges the personal and the planetary, helping learners see their actions as part of global systems. Rather than conceptualizing citizenship as something tied to one place or passport, it reimagines citizenship as shared agency across humanity. A true global citizen. Consider this. Legal citizenship has traditionally been tied to a state, granting rights and protections in exchange for allegiance. But if we truly saw every human as a global citizen, we would uphold equal dignity and rights for all people everywhere, prioritize global justice over parochial self-interest, recognize that human welfare and ecological health are inseparable, take collective responsibility for ending hunger, inequality, and conflict. Advocates of world citizenship argue that our rights and duties are not just regional. They extend to all of humanity and to the Earth itself as our shared home. Under this idea, citizens are encouraged to protect human rights and environmental integrity everywhere, not just within national borders. Challenges and controversies. Of course, global citizenship is not without critique. Some argue that it can be overly idealistic or lack enforceable rights, especially when contrasted with deeply entrenched systems of national sovereignty and borders. Philosopher Hannah Arendt famously pointed out the vulnerability of right-bearing individuals who lack state citizenship, suggesting that merely declaring universal rights is insufficient without structures to protect them. Despite these challenges, the idea continues to gain traction because it addresses a growing consensus that humanity must collaboratively solve problems no one nation can solve alone, from climate change and public health to inequality and technological governance. Why this matters now? Considering every human a citizen of Earth is not merely a philosophical aspiration, it's a practical necessity in an era of global challenges. Climate change doesn't respect borders. Pandemics spread globally. Economic inequality affects worldwide stability. Digital networks connect us instantaneously across cultures. Global citizenship education prepares individuals to navigate this complex world with empathy, insight, and responsibility. It urges every person, child, adult, elder, woman, man, youth, to think beyond personal or national identity toward our shared future as caretakers of life and dignity on Earth. Conclusion. A call to think and act. If we truly embrace the idea that every human being is a global citizen, we reshape how we educate, how we govern, how we respond to crises, and how we honor each other's dignity. We build not just communication skills, but compassionate consciousness, equipping learners everywhere to engage with the world as responsible global partners. This is not just an ideal, It is a practical lens for understanding our shared responsibilities, a blueprint for peace-oriented education, and a tenet that could redefine how we live, learn, and contribute to one another. By teaching one another, in English or any language, that we are part of one human family, we lay the foundation for a more united, peaceful, and equitable world. If you'd like this explored as a 4,000-character visionary manifesto for social media or a chapter draft for a book, I can craft it next.
Water and food as human rights immediately.
Here's a clear, fact-checked, and detailed explanation of the current international legal and moral status of water and food as human rights, grounded in international law and global declarations, what's legally recognized, what's morally argued, and what the world should know and think as we advance toward justice and dignity for all people. 1. Food is recognized as a human right. The right to adequate food is established in key international human rights instruments. Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights recognizes everyone's right to a standard of living adequate for health, including food. The International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966, explicitly affirms the right of everyone to an adequate standard of living, including adequate food, and explicitly requires states to take steps to prevent hunger and achieve food security and nutrition. This right is legally binding for the vast majority of countries, over 170, that have ratified the covenant. Under it, states must respect, protect, and fulfill the right to food, meaning they should not interfere with access, should prevent abuse by others, and should take positive action toward food security. Water and sanitation are recognized as access to safe, sufficient, and affordable water and sanitation has been formally recognized as a human right by the United Nations. In 2010, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolutions 64, 2 and 92, recognizing the right to safe and clean drinking water and sanitation as a human right essential for the full enjoyment of life and all human rights. The UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, CSR, interpreting the ICSR, clarified that water is part of the right to an adequate standard of living and must be available, safe, acceptable and affordable. Sanitation was later recognized as a distinct right in 2015 by the General Assembly. This means that in international law, every person should be entitled to clean water and sanitation without discrimination. Governments are expected to ensure access through policies, infrastructure and accountability to rights holders. Why water and food are human rights, not privileges? Life itself depends on them. Water and food aren't luxuries, they are biological prerequisites for survival. Without clean water, the body cannot function and life cannot be sustained. Without food and adequate nutrition, health deteriorates, immune systems fail, growth stalls, and survival becomes impossible.